the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.
This is ResiWeek, the weekly look at the residential market for the AV industry. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us this week is Dennis Holzer. Dennis is from Powerhouse Alliance. Welcome, sir.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Also with us is our old buddy Stephen Bronner from Pro Audio Georgia. Welcome, sir.
Thanks, man. It's always a pleasure.
And Stephen is so committed to doing this that he's doing it from a client's basement. Just want to point that out, that he's that committed. You know.
Hey, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, buddy.
You do, absolutely. Hey, real quick before we get started with the stories, we do have a couple to go through: FCC, Google, and some other. I want to bring up one that we covered last week with Ted Green and Ven and Delia. The ongoing saga of who the heck is going to own Sharp. So, real quickly. I'm not going to ask you guys to comment on this, but this is an update for those that are following this. Foxconn, the folks that are trying to buy them, ran into a little bit of a snag. Apparently, Sharp has about $2.6 billion in debt. So that put the kibosh on it for a little bit. This is from Bloomberg News. They are revisiting and revising the terms of the approved deal. So just keep track of, honestly, I mean, Walter's doing a good job. Ted's been on his hyphen CE Pro job residents. Check out, type in Sharp and Foxconn, and that'll get you somewhere. So, all right, first actual story. Anytime I can use a story from the Nerdist, it's always a good day. FCC has ruled that you can get your cable through devices besides your company's cable box. So here's the short and sweet of this. The FCC, Tom Wheeler, screenshot of the Nerdist article. Tom Wheeler's tweet is in the middle there today. I am proud that the FCC has moved forward on a pro-lock the box proposal. All right, so here's the sort of and everything happens the way it's supposed to. You will be able to get your cable through things like Amazon Fire or Apple TV, Roku boxes, things of that nature. It was not passed out right. In other words, it was not a rule yet, because period of 60 days for people to comment on it. You know good and well that Comcast and Charter and Time Warner, they're going to have their comments on it. So if you're interested and you think this is a good idea, I'm going to put a link to the story. In that story is a place that you can go comment on this proposal. Stephen, for you, first and foremost, we'll start with you. Do you need to get that, Dennis? You can.
No.
There we go.
Now that we said we have good customer service, I'm not answering the phone for a week.
Jeez, there we go. Stephen, I mean, what do you think about this deal? The fact that possibly, if this goes through, we'll be able to get rid of the current cable box system as it be able to, obviously one of these streaming devices. Ostensibly, one could argue that there could be a market for third-party cable boxes that may do other things. What do you think of this deal?
Wow. Well, considering the fact that the cable companies use the worst box on the market, I mean, really, of all the products that we have to deal with, we dread the cable box the most. So if you're telling me that now we can get the client the services that they want through a different box that may actually be reliable and have things like power discrete codes and other unicorns that don't exist in the cable world. It can't be anything but a good thing. Now you're giving the client, just like when the client was able to get their own modem and supply their own modem for their internet service, now you're doing the same thing. You're telling the client, hey, if you don't like that junky cable box, you can get all the channels you want, but now we can give you a high-quality box that has good processing and is going to give you a better signal. It's a win-win for the client. I can't see how it's a bad thing for the cable company. I mean, those boxes are garbage. They go out all the time. They're going to save a fortune. If a client says, hey, we'll supply our own box, man, I mean, how often does a coax break? So basically, once the line comes into the house, you should be good to go. Sounds like a win-win all around.
Dennis, from you guys' standpoint, go ahead and feel free to comment on whether or not you think it's a good idea. But it also gives you guys another, offering. Once
I agree with
this is approved and this. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. I agree with Steve, because the fact of the matter is that the cable boxes, the cable companies should be happy because of all the aggravation sending rolling trucks just to fix cable boxes and do different things. They should be pleased about that. Steve, I would turn this back over to you and say, how many Apple TVs with every install do you already do? Not to mention other type of devices that you're putting in systems over and above. So I agree with you. It's a win-win. It's better, more updated technology for the consumer, and that has more of an open access going forward. So I think it's a win-win. Yeah,
I mean, to the Apple TV thing, we sell so many of them that we actually keep 3 on every truck that we have in the field. You can throw an Apple TV behind any set, bedrooms, kitchens, anywhere, and all of a sudden the client has all their content available right there. So yeah, your point about the Apple TV is great, and then also Roku boxes and the other boxes that are out, and then if you got a real techie client and they do like an XBMC or a Kodi box, now you've given them the opportunity to really control all of their media.
All right, so let me get even crazier here now. Could you then maybe send that to, I don't know, your iPad or your Amazon Fire tablet and stuff like that? Is that something that we're looking at too, or are you still going to have a physical cable coax?
No, you can already stream. I mean, all your cable services, DirecTV, Comcast, you can already stream it directly to your tablets and to your phones for free if you have the service. So
that's true.
They have DirecTV Anywhere, and I don't know what Xfinity calls theirs, but you can already do that. So yeah, this just opens the door for a better experience. And actually, I can't see why a cable company would fight this. It seems like if I had equipment in the field that failed constantly, why would I be opposed to someone else bringing in better equipment? It just doesn't make sense.
Tim,
I think that's one thing that they see.
I think 2 other things. Number one, I think it's going to pave the way ultimately for vendors, TV vendors, to stop putting tuners in their TVs. So I think that's the next step. And I think the only thing, and I don't know this, and I guess this is more of a question for Steve or you guys, is there anything in those boxes that gives them any type of proprietary information, like what you're watching?
Yes.
So that could be the only downfall, from the cable companies, that they would look at, and they would be losing a little bit of control from that fact.
Not only that, but if a signal goes out, if you're using their cable box, then they have the ability to recycle the signal, turn the box off, turn it back on, send it firmware. So whereas you cut out the headache of the bad quality product, then you add the headache of, okay, well, our signal's good, your device is bad, so who's responsible? So now that I say that, I kind of see their side of it, whereas they lose a little bit of quality control as well, because now they don't know, as of right now, they can tell you all the way to the HDMI cable that goes to the TV, what's wrong. Once it comes out of the box to the HDMI or whatever cable you use, it's not their fault. But if you take their box out, now they no longer have that control.
This also gives them one more issue to say it's out of our purview. You know, they're so quick to say that it's not us. This helps them say it's not us a little bit even faster than they would have originally.
Yes,
that's true. Yeah.
Hey, Tim. Quick
and depending
question.
on the software and depending on the yes, go ahead.
So we've got all these devices that we're going to stream with, and this goes back to what he said about taking the tuners out of TVs. We have a lot of people that are cutting the cord, and sometimes if you cut the cord, the only way you can get your local channels is over the air. So that would be an interesting side effect if they took the tuners out, basically going back to the old days of using displays instead of TVs. So, or monitors is what we call them. Yeah. So like the commercial world uses monitors. So if you did that, now you're actually, you're kind of taking one step forward, one step back. So I hope that doesn't happen. That would not be a good thing.
Well, where you wish that they would have won that case now, right? Because with Aereo, you could stream it straight to some sort of other box. But of course, you know, Supreme Court in their infinite wisdom said that that was illegal for whatever stupid reason. Anyhow,
yeah, we already
that was my only political soapbox for the day. Yeah. From our buddies over at CE Pro, Runco. If you're not familiar with who Runco is, Runco, good lord, 30 years ago now almost. Runco was established by, well, Sam Runco.
Yep.
It was purchased by Planar a number of years ago. Planar actually did a really good job of keeping the product up. Been acquired in layards. We're done. So Runco is basically effectively no more. This is according to CE Pro and Julie Jake. Stephen, we'll start with you on this. What does this mean, just for the projector market in general, and obviously for the folks that have held on to Runco for so long?
Well, to be honest with you, man, I guess I'm gonna be the bad guy here, because I'm gonna say that this doesn't have any effect on our industry whatsoever. I mean, in my opinion,
really?
Runco, yeah, in my opinion, and I deal with high-end projectors, and Runco had its heyday, but now there are so many people on the market that do as good, if not better, of a job than Runco for the same or a lower price, that it, you know, the thing that drove Runco was Sam's enthusiasm. You know, they were always on the cutting edge. They were always doing new stuff. And when was the last time you heard a news article that said brand new features coming to Runco? It just never happens. I mean,
yes.
I can't believe it lasted this long, to be honest with you.
Well, it's you and me left here because Dennis apparently has lost his internet connection. So we'll
Am I
continue
choppy
on
on
with
your
the next
side,
story.
then?
No, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah.
Okay. Because you're choppy on my side, so I didn't know if I was choppy on your side.
No, you look good. All right, so next up, Vudu is expanding 4K as well as doing Dolby Atmos. So I want to do at two angles with this. First is the 4K part, and then the Dolby Atmos. So, Stephen, the first question here is this. As we expand the displays from Ultra HD to 4K to the next one being 8K and this, that, and the other, one of the common content, here's an online service that is saying, hey, you know what, coming up, Heart of the Sea, which is the Moby Dick story, The Intern, a number of other offerings here recently are going to be offered in 4K. Does that bolster the need for 4K in the home?
I think that it just adds to the benefit of having 4K. I wouldn't say it bolsters the need. We've been selling, and there was an article written, they asked me my opinion, I've been selling 4K for a year and a half now. I'm not one of the late adopters. I saw it. I'm a video and audio snob. It has to be calibrated. It has to have the best picture. So whenever we look at this and we say, hey, Vudu's putting out 4K, that's just great. That's that much easier to tell it to convince a client to do 4K, because it's not really that hard for us. We have a different kind of business model where the systems we supply, we guarantee they're going to be forward compatible for 4 years. Yeah. So because of that particular write-in on our contracts, that it's not hard for us to do 4K because the clients expect that from us. But what I will say is that the more people that offer it, the more people that come along and they say, hey, here's more 4K content, the more the clients will request it, as opposed to us having to introduce it to the clients. I like it. I've always thought Vudu was the best streaming service, period. They made the best remote control in the history of all AV for their boxes. I don't know if you ever got to see one.
No.
But it literally had a scroll wheel and a couple of buttons, and it was shaped perfect for your hand. I mean, that company out of the gate was amazing. And then Walmart bought them, and I thought, oh man, they're going to go down big, and they didn't. Their offerings have expanded. So Vudu is just one more service. You know, you got Netflix, Vudu, now DirecTV has 4K content. These things just make it easier and easier for us to tell a client, you know what, you need to bite on this technology.
All right, so we go from the 4K part to the Atmos part. Dolby Atmos has made some waves the last 2 CDs I know for, and possibly the last 3 or 4. How important is Dolby Atmos at this point when it comes to an audio technology?
Dolby Atmos is single-handedly the largest advancement in audio in at least 10 years. I cannot, I'll be honest with you, and I worked with John Siaka before the spec even came out. It's a funny story. They introduced Atmos at CD, and all these receivers had Atmos, and they didn't even release the spec until November. And that was a couple of CDs ago, and I was working closely with John and Dolby to get the spec, because I had a Atmos system that had to go in before November. Yeah. So we were working to get the spec. But as far as guys like us are concerned, it's huge. But as far as clients are concerned, I mean, those are things that, if you think about it, it's not an easy integration. You can't retro that in very easily. Most of the theaters and things like that we do have very intricate ceilings. I mean, I have several that have star ceilings in them. Where do you put the speakers? Yeah. You can do floor standing in the front and use a reflective speaker, but very few of our theaters have floor standing speakers in them.
So clients probably don't want that, do they?
No, they don't. Whenever they get a theater, they want it to look like a real movie theater. They don't want to see all the speakers. Now, I have some gearheads, some guys that really want to see it. They want the amps up front, and they want all that stuff. And you know what? That's cool. But by a large majority, a client, when you build a theater, they want it to be clean, and they don't want to see the equipment. So, you know, being able to add a speaker to the top of a tower speaker to do Dolby might sound like a great idea in theory, but we're not going to use it most of the time. Now, do I think that it's huge that they're adding Atmos to their products? I really don't know. I don't know what the overall effect will be, because I've only had, of the theaters that I've built, I've only had 2 clients that had even heard of Dolby Atmos. And the one of them that had heard of it said it's just more that Vudu, it's just more speakers. And I had to actually explain to him, no, it's not. You know, all these years they've been telling you, look, the helicopter flies over you, when in all honesty it flew around you. Now the helicopter actually flies over you. So it's, I think it's great that they're embracing the technology and they're adding it now for when people do adopt. But 4K is something that people are asking for.
Okay.
Atmos is a lot of, I've actually, like I said, I've had a client tell me that it's just more speakers to sell, that he doesn't need. 5.1 sounded great. Now, granted, that client ended up with a 722 system, so 5.1 sounded great until he went and sat in another theater and said, I want this. So, yeah, I think it's a good addition.
Okay, so is it a matter of the clients not hearing about it yet, and maybe eventually Atmos will become THX, right? When you and I were kids, the 80s, I mean, everybody had to have a THX theater, right?
Right.
Just getting the mind share and the clients, I guess, becoming familiar with it?
I don't know. I think that the clients that are building home theaters, they want it. The clients that are just doing media rooms, because a large majority of our clientele, they're doing media rooms now. Theaters are not as common. So if you're doing a media room, Atmos is not as important. But if you're doing a theater, it's actually something we put in all the theaters now. Any fresh build theater that we have, we're doing Atmos. Any retro theater that we're upgrading, we're doing Atmos because we believe in it. And I have found that whatever you believe in as an integrator and whatever you're passionate about, that's what your clients will believe in. So is it a big deal that Vudu is doing it? I don't know, but it's a big deal that we're doing it.
Okay.
And to me, it's a big deal that content providers are biting and they're actually doing it as well.
Dennis, from your standpoint, how big is Dolby Atmos at this point?
It's growing. I would say it's not as big as everybody had hoped out the gate. I think it's taken time to materialize, and I think it's growing at a nice rate. But again, I repeat, not as nice as everybody had expected. I don't know why. Something new comes out, everybody thinks that everybody's going to jump on it, and they didn't. They're not going to just go out and buy. Some will, I shouldn't say, but some will go out and buy a new receiver. But not everybody's just going to dump their old receiver or just invest in new speakers. So I think it's coming on nicely, and I agree again with Steve that the installers have a lot to play. They got to educate their consumers on what's out there and give them some way of experiencing what it sounds like, what it'll be in their system, and for those installers that are doing that, I think they're becoming pretty successful.
Guys, the show is a lot more interesting when you don't agree with each other. If you could argue, that would be lovely. Let's go on with this next one. Google is reportedly working with Visio, one of Dennis's companies, on cast-ready TVs. So, if you're not familiar with the Chromecast, it's an Amazon Fire. It's another way for you to get not only obviously Chrome content, wireless content, streaming devices, but you can also send your content from your computer straight to the device itself. Currently, it's literally, it almost looks like a USB stick, and you plug it into one of your HDMI ports. Working with Visio on some of the on having Chrome built in or Chromecast built into it. Dennis, we'll start with you. How big of a deal is this to have apps like this built in from Google?
I think it's very big. I think obviously Google and Apple and a couple of these other companies are all fighting to lead the charge. I think it relates to what we talked about earlier, that I think it also starts to pave the way of no tuners and TVs going forward. And the bottom line, though, I think it's still an educational, that the installers have to teach the consumers. I mean, again, there's a share of consumers who keep up on this stuff, but there's a large share who don't. And I'm sure they call the Steves of the world and say, here's what I want to do, what do you have? And the trust goes into the installer, and I believe it'll be big going down the road.
All right, Steven, same question to you. How big of a deal is this?
Well, I think it's a big deal. I like the Chromecast. I use it. It's effective. I wish, and here's my wish, and I understand there are different TVs for different people, but I just wish that some of these TV companies would focus on building their picture quality as well as their features, because what we keep running into is these TVs that have all of these feature qualities and all these features, and then when you get in there, the TV lasts a year, 2 years. The picture quality's not good. You've got motion blur and the picture's dim. So I think that it's a good thing that they're building this stuff in, but as long as it's done well on a nice TV, all these features are great. But putting lipstick on a pig does nothing for me. So if you're gonna put all these great features and then put them into a $500 60-inch TV, there's only so much you're going to get out of it. So it's a great move. It's a very great move. I have a Chromecast. I have an Apple TV. Trust me, I have all the gadgets. And I will tell you that out of all of them, the Chromecast is actually one of my favorites because it's not restricted. It doesn't care who it talks to. It'll talk to Apple. It'll talk to Google or Android. It'll talk to your computer through the Google browser. So, I mean, I like the idea. I just want to make sure that these TV companies that are offering these features are working on the other side as well. I mean, you have Sony that now has the built-in DirecTV tuner. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah.
And you know, another thing about Sony, they just happen to have these two features, but with the Sony TV, if you have a PlayStation 3 controller, you play the games right through the TV, download. You don't have to have a game system. So there are a lot of these features being built in, but Sony, in my opinion, did it really well, and I can't wait to see. I'm interested to see what Visio does, because Sony built these features into TVs that have extremely high picture quality, extremely long-lasting TVs. So you're selling your client a quality product, and then you say, oh, by the way, instead of needing a Chromecast, it's built in, or instead of needing a game system, it's built in. So that's my take on it. I'm not as excited until I see what Visio does with the technology.
All right, very good. That'll be the last word on that. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Dennis, how do people find you and get a hold of you or Powerhouse?
So they can either go online, www.powerhousealliance.com. We have 12 members, and depending on the area that you live in, or that you work in, excuse me, you can certainly go online and see who covers your area. 12 members, 39 warehouses, and hope to have a couple more very shortly. And we welcome anybody who wants to give us a shot. And Steve, we appreciate your business. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Very good.
And Tim, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. Stephen, how do people find you or Pro Audio Georgia?
ProAudio_GA on Twitter, ProAudioGeorgia.com. I'm easy to find. I'm all over the place. Look me up, give me a call if you need me, if you have any questions. We do everything from working with clients to a pretty extensive mentoring program for other businesses. So if you're a business owner and you're watching this and you're interested in getting a little deeper into our industry, I've worked really hard to establish a good reputation of helping other business owners build their business, and look forward to working with anyone. And like I said, look me up. I'm not real active on Twitter. I should be a little more active, but
you got a business to run, dude. So.
I have a business to run and 4 kids, and so it gets life gets very interesting sometimes. And but that's how you find me.
All right. And he would be actually a pretty good guy to mentor. So if you're interested in that, my name is Tim Albright. Don't follow me. Go by the website avnation.tv. avnation.tv. You will find this very program and a host of others on the website right now. We spent some time at NSCA BLC last week, so check that out, their annual Business Leadership Conference. This Friday on AV Week, Mr. George Tucker will be hosting, because I am headed off to Infocom Connections, so if you're heading out there in San Jose, come by and say hi. So avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. This has been ResiWeek.